Welcome to Business Authority Radio, bringing you insights from today's thought leaders, professionals, and influencers. With your hosts, Neil Howe and Craig Williams.
Welcome to another edition of Business Authority Radio, sizzling out here in Houston, Texas, with Mr. Maurice Evans, founder of Every Level of Success. You've known him from the NBA. He spent a balanced number of years, and a balanced number of years was 11 years in the NBA. He was also acting vice president of the Players Association. And now he's still doing what he's been doing for a long time, and that's serving communities of players, corporations, owners. He's definitely a servant. Maurice, thank you so much for joining me. Take it away.
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for having me, man. It's such a pleasure to be here and for you to obviously take time out of your day to be a part of this podcast with me. I've done a lot of podcasts, a lot of speaking engagements, but there's very few that I actually have gotten excited about, and this is one of them. Given your background and things that you've been able to accomplish, I want to first congratulate you on that and just say thank you again for just having me and taking the time.
Well, man, I mean, he's putting me on a pedestal, so I have to come down and just talk eye to eye with this brother. Maurice, I know you're a family man, first and foremost, and that's because you came from a great family. Your parents, both of your parents, contributed a lot into building the character of your leadership, and I think it transferred not only into college and the professional league, but also in the capacity that you're working in now. You've sought out to make sure that marriages, businesses, the future of these players sustained. It's great to have those 15 moments of 15 seconds or 15 minutes or 15 hours of success now that we can have with social media. But what's most important is what happens after. And you are a man of legacy proportion. And the work that you're building now, the foundation, even the book that you're writing has a lot to say about what's important to you. Tell me a little bit about Every Level of Success and what inspires you to make sure there are levels and growth in success.
Man, I really appreciate, again, the compliments. And for me personally, you mentioned my parents. My parents have been married for over 40 years.
Wow.
And so we have I was just literally finishing up my final edits for my book, obviously entitled Every Level of Success. And I was writing the last and final, I don't call them chapters, I call them lessons, because it's a compilation of life lessons that I've learned about success from all the many people I've been blessed to be able to glean from. And my parents being two of the primary people. And I was writing just about what you said, legacy, success, and the difference. I don't think many people know the distinction. It's a clear distinction between temporary success and legacy success. Yeah. And I've been surrounded by it, whether it was when, they allowed me to go and made the sacrifices that allowed me to go to a private school from the age of 12 and graduate through 18. And that school happened to be, again, the home of R.C. Buford, the one of the catalysts behind the success of the general manager of the San Antonio Spurs. It's Charles Koch is one of the major contributors. They literally, we get no state funding from that school at all.
That's
so
legacy,
I just when I reflected back upon it, I was like, man. But the thing, the key ingredient to any legacy success is the seed that was first sown. And if you don't sow the seed and cultivate it, then you will not be able to appreciate and maintain a proper perspective around the success that you achieve. And so for me to get to the NBA and play and be blessed enough to play in professional sports for 11 years, I've seen so many people who are more talented than me not make it. I've seen even more people who are talented to me make it and not be able to sustain it.
Yeah.
And when I came out of the NBA, I realized, especially as a vice president of the Players Association, that it was a shame to have so many people come to the league and especially the NBA with regards to the NBA alone, play in the NBA and file bankruptcy 60% of our players file bankruptcy within 5 years of retiring.
And that's across the board. That has no racial boundaries. That's just across the board.
That's across the board. And the same is true of NFL players. 78% of them file bankruptcy within 2 years of retiring. And when you talk about it, I mean, there's a statistics released by Wells Fargo and Price Water Cooper. They talk about it's not just an athlete thing. People think it's athletes. They have a statistic that says anybody who gets a large windfall, especially even lottery winners, proves it obviously, but anybody who receives a large windfall, they exhaust all of those funds within 5 years of just in the 5 year period. And lottery winners, regardless of size, within 5 years. And so that's to say is, again, that it just goes back to the point that we're making about legacy success. Those people that have not value, they did not truly embrace and maintain the right perspective, and its success can be fleeting.
Yeah. Would you say that education has, and I'm not talking about the book knowledge of education, but having the respect enough for power, because I look at money as just a variable of power, just like relationships or influence is a variable of power, and not having the education or the lineage, like you said, the legacy of knowing how to steward those resources. In a land of abundance, America is the land of abundance. And to have those type of numbers projected says a lot to the lack of education about power, money, resources, even relationships, because it seems like if you had the relationships, there's someone within that community that could educate you without their hand being out for themselves, just themselves, because you have people running to you all the time when you have that windfall of income. But then it's fleeting after a while, because it seems like when the money goes, they go too. So tell me a little bit about what you think education about finances and part of what you provide in your organization and your companies are platforms of educating the players, the family members, on how to manage and be better stewards of their resources across the board.
Most certainly. You said the key component, the key phrase is literacy.
Yeah.
And it's literacy that extends beyond just, money. I call it the four pillars, which is, again, faith, family, finances, and fitness.
Yes.
I mean, all of those things. If you have, you achieve high success and have a lot of tangible assets, money, etc., but if you lose your health, what does it really mean?
Exactly.
Right? And if you don't have anyone to share it with from a relational component, what does it really mean? Right?
Exactly.
And so that was the whole premise behind every level of success, is helping people achieve that balance and understand how to create tangible, sustainable success in multiple verticals, so that they can be able to then be impactful and leave this world better than we all found it, which is should be everybody's goal, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think back to when you were with the NBA. There's a level of play, of course, less than 1% of those who, in college make it to that level. And you were undrafted, not to say that you weren't the level that was needed to make, because you wound up being there. And what I found is those who are undrafted in any sport are the hardest working, the true leaders, because not saying that everybody who is drafted has a mindset of mentality or entitlement mentality, as is popular in this great United States, but you seem to, because it wasn't, and that's not given to them as well, but because you did not get that draft pick, it not so much made you have a chip on your shoulder, but you knew you still had to prove yourself, obviously, a little bit more. Tell me, do you think it was the character that your parents, and I'm answering this question for you, do you think it was the character that your parents deposited into you and showed before you? They also showed this, that help you be in a position to influence a whole league of players. You were a vice president of the Players Association. That's nothing just to, they don't just give that away. Where do you feel character played in that?
Character obviously played a significant role, and to even bring even more insight for me is is I even with the upbringing that I had, the education, the parents in the 2-parent family home. I mean, I realized many of my brethren and sisters who are out here, not only just in the sports world. I mean, African Americans alone, 73% of us come from single parent households, and so it's rare for us to be able to have they always used to say a village raised. It takes a village, a community, right? An individual, right? Well, those communities are dissipating, man.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people don't have successful people to glean from and look to help them become better stewards of success. And so for many of us, we're first generation education, first generation success. So I didn't have anyone to really take me under their wing. The first person who really inspired me in that way in the sports realm was Kevin Garnett. And that's when I came into Minnesota Timberwolves and saw this 24-year-old individual who had already amassed at that point $100 million contract.
Yeah, that
was my first time really getting an up close, first-hand perspective of what it meant to be wealthy versus just rich.
Yes,
and so that shifted my mentality from a rookie. In that point, I always knew that I wanted to be something greater in this league and leave a legacy somehow, some way. And I knew that it might not be in the same way that Kevin Garnett did or Kobe Bryant did, but I knew that God had brought me to this point for a reason bigger than what I could see. And Kevin Garnett, he told me my rookie year, man, it all comes full circle.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting in those labor negotiations in those meetings and realizing why it had come full circle.
Yeah.
And it had come to the point to where I knew that I was going to be elevated outside of the game far more than I ever would be in the game. And this is why the company is born, because I'm now in a position with this company and with this technology that we're bringing to market to teach and assist all athletes and entertainers to build tangible, sustainable success.
Wow. So every level of success is a community. It is a platform. It is a resource to contribute every facet needed to sustain a legacy. Wow, that's powerful, man.
Leveraging technology to do it. We're in a technical world. Just like I know, if you don't have the right technological components, you cannot scale your business. And right now, the sports and entertainment industry lacks a quantifiable measuring tool.
Yeah.
So if you were to go and say LeBron James, he made $50 million outside of the game. That's just in endorsement dollars.
For a year.
That's just for 1 year,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And so for most people, how do you quantify the 15th man on the bench?
Yes.
Shannon Fry. What is his value worth, right? He's an influencer as well. He's some Mr. Basketball somewhere in his state, right?
Yeah.
For me personally, I was 2-time player of the year in the state of Kansas.
Yeah.
I went. I'm only one of 3 players ever to score 1,000 points in the first 2 seasons of their collegiate career in terms of Wichita State. I mean, it's accolades, and I'm not saying this to brag on myself. I'm saying these compliments, these achievements.
These are assets to your influence.
That no one could quantify my value as a journeyman.
Yeah.
Because once that label came out, undrafted, well, okay, so what does that mean now? But yet I was still impactful because I was in the rotation of all the teams I played for, and everyone with the exception of Washington, we went to the playoffs.
Yeah.
So if I'm a player who's in the rotation and heavily contributed to the team, but no one can quantify the value that I bring to that community, to that team, and beyond, to any products or services that I represent, that's a disconnect.
Yes.
And so that's what we're going in to solve, to help them further maximize opportunities within that industry. Globally, the sports industry is a $145 billion industry annually.
That's with a B.
Annually. So just think, there's only 450 players that get to play in the NBA maximum. And so they're going to be giving $3 billion this year, and that number keeps growing every year as a result of the deal. So why is it that if they're getting $3 billion, who's going to help assist them? There's an ecosystem with those players in and of itself. But we got to teach them, again, how to not become victims of their own success
Mm-hmm.
by not having the right measures in place to help them sustain those revenue streams by continuing to capitalize on their own brands.
Yes.
Because they all are businesses. Jay-Z said it.
Yeah.
I'm a businessman. You know, what did he say? I'm a businessman. Not, you know what? I can't even remember how he said it.
And
I
can't remember.
He said,
but
I'm a business, not a businessman.
there you
so
go.
I'm just like, man,
Exactly.
so get it.
So tell me this. I see the picture on the cover of your new book coming out, and there's a little person on your shoulder. Tell me what that means to you.
So just to paint a picture for the audience, for those listeners, the cover of my book shows it shows me in an NBA jersey. It's the final jersey that I played in Washington. It shows my name on the back with Evans, but looking over my shoulder, you can see the face of my son, my newborn son, and I just thought that picture represented everything that is not only in this book but is my life.
Mm-hmm.
Is that success is so much bigger than me, and TD Jakes said it best. He said, man, if you leave more to your children than you leave in your children, then what you leave them will kill them. And so I'm a high achiever, high earner. I don't worry about myself. I can eat, I can go make money and do different things. As I said, I've been blessed to be a high achiever, but my goal is to now is success is now bigger. My life is not my own anymore. I live it not just for me, but to also now teach and leave the methodologies and systems in place to help my children build that legacy and sustain it and grow it beyond what I could have ever done. And so that's why I chose this as the cover of this book.
I don't know if you just heard what you said, but what was instilled in you as a child from your parents, that seed that was planted, they get to see in your seed.
Yes.
And that is true legacy. That, my friend, is true legacy. And that's a beautiful thing for your parents as well, to be able to witness a seed planted, a seed watered. And of course, we know who gives the increase.
Yes.
But at the same time, for them to see it play out in their lifetime, in our community and other communities as well, but in our community for sure, we talked about being first generation this, or first generation education, to this level, or first generation in financial gain and having access to so much. And in this day and age, it's exponential in its growth of what we have access to. I mean, just getting off of a plane less than an hour ago, and I'm up here having a conversation with you, and all the pieces that played in that I didn't have to. That was just with me. I didn't have to have a person do this for me, or a person to do. And for us to be able to connect, first time meeting each other, and using technology and going right into a conversation about legacy that will affect generations after us, because this conversation is evergreen. And I think what you're doing is laying a foundation for others to experience this same thing. It's not that they have to have the financial background, because you're bringing that to the table. It's not that they have to have the corporate background, because you're bringing that to the table as well. You're allowing them to bring their resources and continue to focus on what they're world class at, and make sure that village, you actually are, every level of success is basically what the community or the village has been designed to be for all of us, and it's gotten us to this point. And I definitely see that. Remind us of those pillars again.
So again, those pillars, as we talked about, is faith, family, finances, and fitness. And to your point, the biggest takeaway that I have from my parents and those people who I've been able to glean from is that leadership and legacy success is inclusive, not exclusive. Mm-hmm. And those individuals who really understand how to have inclusive leadership knows that the primary driver is meeting people where they are.
Yes.
So we can't go to these athletes, these entertainers, the common person, and try to get them to be something that they're not or not ready for, right?
Yeah.
Because that literacy component is still there.
Yeah.
So what we do is, again, we help elevate them, but we have to be able to give them the resources, but empower them more so that when they're ready to go to those next levels and they're ready to connect to that community and those strategic service providers who are in there, who are vetted and approved and who are experts at what they do, and that's when you go get fed. But they have to be able to take on to act first.
Yes.
Right. All we do is supply the resources, the service providers, and then we give them the tools to better manage their brand and be aware of the influence that they have by quantifying and measuring it. And now we sit back and just create let that ecosystem be stimulated by that growth.
Wow. I'm excited. I'm excited to know that there are individuals who are coming together for the sake of, I would say humanity, because there are certain influencers. Of course, America is a big influencer when it comes to humanity. And as you break down those different ecosystems, as you said, you have America, not to take anything away from any other continent, because I think wherever there's humanity, there's a great and an eternal contribution. America has so much influence, but then you break it down into what does that influence look like? It's media, and what is media promoting? Whether it's music, movies, film, the entertainment industry, and the unifier is sports. I'll say that again. The unifier is sports, and I'll say that in a time right now where it seems that it's being used to divide, but we know better than that, will happen. Just like music being the universal language that gives us the rhythm, the sport gives us the play that we should never forget about us, as children. That mindset of just loving and having fun and being happy. Those characteristics of children, the innocence that we need to be reminded of. I think the influence and the ecosystem that you're being a part of is going to definitely be a legacy component of humanity because of those circle of influence. And as you said earlier, it's not just for the NBA or the NFL, it's for those entertainers. It's for everyone, but they are the ones who are influencing the other 90%.
Well, the great thing is we're helping to create a better fan experience, because now we help keep the influencer, we're the influence behind the influencers.
Yes.
So when you help them be healthier, now that stimulates, a better experience for everyone.
Yes.
So the fans don't want to keep going to the game and being outpriced.
Yeah.
They want to be able to go to the game and feel like, man, they really created they got their bang for their buck, man. I came and met, wow, I got a finally chance to meet Steph Curry.
Yeah.
Wow, it's those are the things that really drive it. I mean, you said something that I wanted to touch upon about the sports industry, which is that it globally, sports drives industries, and the reason why it's so sustainable is because everybody needs a win at some time. And so for
Amen.
The little guy, or for the whomever you are, man, you can pull for the underdog. You see these heroic efforts take place, whether it's on Sundays in the form of a last second touchdown drive or somebody hitting the last one in shot. You see somebody doing an impossible, and that is a uniter.
Yeah.
No matter what happens in the political scene, that is something that unites all colors, all races, genders, creeds, etc. And that's and from an economic point, two things have been said about the sports industry, and we learned this when we were negotiating the CBA. First is resilient, recession resilient, and recession proof, and meaning that when dollars get tight, people will still pay to go get that win.
Yes.
They will still go pay to take time off so that they are able to then go support and disconnect from their reality, even if it's for those 2 or 3 hours during that game.
Yes.
And that's what gives the uplifts the morale of the country ultimately, to feel like they're a part of something bigger than themselves. And I'd be remiss to not mention, first of all, I got to thank Lisa Jones, the founder of E.L.O.S. Inc.
Thank you,
she's
Lisa.
the one who connected us, and she's doing so many great things with her innovative E.L.O.S. campaigns, and
Most
so we're
definitely
excited to be able to work with her, and also Ruth Hedges. She's putting on the 7th annual World Crowdfunding Convention that's taking place in Vegas, the October 23rd and 24th. I'm going to be out there presenting alongside of Microsoft and Ford's books, and we're going to talk about just what you just hit upon, is uniting investors from around the world to give them a chance to participate with companies like ours. Because in my opinion, too often these great ideals and great companies, they come along and they transact on the consumer, but they don't give them a chance to actually be a part of them and grow with them. You and I talked about it offline, how I was a part of the NBA as an influencer. I played for 11 years professionally, but yet this league goes on, continues to make a significant amount of money. But I look at it for not only for myself, but all the great people who have contributed in the past. The Iceman George Gervins.
Yes.
You look at the Michael Jordans of the NBA, and we just Dr. J's. I just played in the Big Three here recently, and they had all these legends, Rick Barry's and people like that. But those people don't get the benefit at all, and yet many of them are still record holders.
Yes.
And how is it that Bill Russell is not still getting a check, or the big O, Oscar Robinson's record just got broke last year in terms of a player averaging a triple-double in Russell Westbrook? So if he's still holding records like this, why are those individuals still not compensated to this point? For all of the money that's generated, there should be a pool of funds that helps sustain those individuals.
There will be, I mark this word, there will be that resource with every level of success.
Amen.
And Business Authority Radio will be a part of making sure that happens amongst all the other resources that are within our reach. I feel a shift now, because you touched on something, and you mentioned it earlier about elevating. You talked about the fan. The fan is what makes this continue to work anyways. So why are we forgetting the fan? And looking forward to that crowdfunding event, which started in the music industry, which I have a background in the music industry, and that was one way that we used to fund concerts, and it grew into businesses, because we weren't in it for the money in a sense. It was to just be able to share and reach our fan base. And it wasn't to puff us up, but it was so that we could share that experience together, and we're feeding off of each other, that infinitum, that eternal. See, legacy is an eternal element. You see what I'm saying? Where it's going back in. It's not going. It's a more of a conduit than a container or vessel.
Amen.
Something with a bottom or a top. It's a conduit that wherever it's pointed, that's where the favor or blessing or benefit or experience is being had. And one of the reasons why soccer is such a global sport, or even NASCAR for that matter, is the experience that the fans get to have in the midst of it, and they're feeling a part of something greater. That's when we become great, because there's no one individual on the face of this planet who's great alone. There's never been and never will be in that sense of this humanity. But knowing that when we come in and create a win-win, and that sounds like what you're doing at every level of success, and it's like you're paying it forward to some of the serving work that you did with the NBA, to now be able to bridge the gap between the player and the fan and make sure that there is a win-win.
Most certainly. I mean, I love what you said. I mean, again, Business Authority Radio, anytime y'all need me or the company or anything, I mean, we are very appreciative for the opportunity. I mean, as you touched upon with the fans, the consumers, in this day and age, I mean, we have to, even as business owners, as entrepreneurs, have to better think about those individuals and keep them in mind.
Because, consider them.
It's great to make the money, but as you said, most businesses that are great start out of the old adage, out of necessity. it said necessity is the mother of invention. So if we follow our passions, the dollars will always come.
Yes.
But we got to provide a value add.
Yes.
And to me, there's so many businesses that are out there now that have become transactional. They have forgotten about the consumer. They have forgotten about customer service. I mean, all of those things, the re-engagement. And so that's how we came up with the iMail, the working together with iMail to begin with. That's
Yes.
how we came up with the sustainable model. As much as we are helping the influencers, it's all with the end consumer in mind.
Yes.
Because now if we have, again, healthier athletes and entertainers, and I mean healthy
mind, body, and soul,
physically,
holistically.
exactly,
Yes.
mind, body, and soul, then they will go out there and be better able to contribute and walk within their gifting and their callings. And now we'll be able to consume and just be inspired by them. And now the heroes that we have will actually be heroes and role models again.
Yes.
Because somewhere along the line, that's been distorted with the social media. Now anybody can be an influencer. Anybody can take and be heard. And we've taken the figure of speech and the freedom of speech and all these different things out of context to now where individuals who have influence is using it to tear down instead of build up.
Yeah.
And that's the difference in what we're trying to accomplish.
Once again, Maurice Evans, founder of Every Level of Success. Tell us how our listeners can reach you, get in touch with you. This will be on the show notes as well, but URL, social media, you name it,
Sure.
contact numbers.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm Twitter is at one Mo Evans. Email even is, if you got any comments, it's mo at ELOS360.com. Our website is www.ELOS360.com. But for the crowdfunding convention, anybody who wants to look at the lead gen page, there's so much on there you can learn about it. Simply investelos.com. So just investelos.com. So thank you for that. I appreciate that, Craig.
Maurice Evans, building abundance for an abundant nation. Wow. Thank you so much, sir.
No, I really appreciate it. Thank you.
You've been listening to Business Authority Radio with Neil Howe and Greg Williams. To learn more about the resources mentioned in today's show or to listen to past episodes, visit businessauthorityradio.com.